Hi, I'm Alan Stokel, brother of Anne. It's always a profoundly sad moment when we realize that we'll never see someone again. Often, we don't know just when that time will come. In our family's case, we were lucky enough to celebrate Epiphany 2020 at Anne's favorite haunt, the Granite Brewery, a few short weeks before her birthday and several weeks before her passing. Now, in case you've never heard her story directly from her, our mum and our grandmum were living near Leeds in North Yorkshire before the Second World War. Mum had an awful chronic cough, and the doctor suggested relocating to the seaside that had much fresher air. They decided on Scarborough, which is on the North Sea facing Northern Europe. Now, fast forward several years, and the Nazis were sending almost daily raids to the industrial areas around Leeds. On their way back, the bombardiers would drop any remaining bombs around the lights of Scarborough before heading out into the inky blackness of the North Sea. Scarborough ended up being a good target for the Luftwaffe. During the war, my dad had been seconded to the British Army Signal Corps when he met my mom and they married. Shortly after the war, Anne was born, and I followed a couple years later. We came to Canada in April of 1952 on the Arosa Culm, a former troop carrier, and flourished in our new home in Englehart, Ontario. It was in the far north, and made many friends. A couple of years later, we moved down to Toronto, where my dad worked for the Department of Veteran Affairs. As soon as she could, Anne took off to see the world. Well, at least our Eurocentric world. And I always remember one trip when Anne was definitely out of her comfort zone. This is when she and I traveled to Colombia together. Those weren't great times for Colombia, with twice daily power shortages and civil unrest. Seemed like a good idea at the time. After it was no longer possible for her to travel, she became the armchair traveler, enjoying the adventures of others, and worked for many years for the TTC as a divisional clerk. If you remember these, you'll know how heavy they were. Years of lifting them onto the counting table finally took its toll on Anne. Her time as a member of the International Transit Union made her a great supporter of workers' rights, something that I was proud to carry on with the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Anne indeed had a full life. She loved to laugh and tell stories of her various adventures. Her final request was to be cremated, and we will be sprinkling her ashes in the North Sea near her birthplace. I was very pleased to be a part of Anne's life for all these many years, and I encourage you, as part of this act of remembrance, to share your memories of Anne's varied and interesting life. I'd like to close with a prayer if I could. Loving God, may we find joy in your presence this difficult season. We know that the death of Anne for a believer is just a doorway that ushers her into your presence. Let this truth be imprinted in our hearts, and may we be filled with joy. Amen.